Hello, my name is Steph. This is my channel, Cursed and Crushing It, where I tell you if I think that books that I have read are cursed or crushing it. And I also give you a complete review on the books. These reviews will be spoiler free. This will be just a little bit more than you can probably get off of the back cover, just a little bit more color to the story to see if you want to read it yourself. But I do keep these spoiler free. So, with that being said, if you like my content and if you want to see more of it, please remember to like this video and then subscribe. That'll help me pop up for you. And then please also leave a comment if you would like to, what you think of the book, what you think of my review, what you think of the editing, what you think of any of this, really, or even just a random emoji. Please like, comment, and subscribe if you like this kind of content and if you want to see more of me in your feed. So, without further ado, I would like to get into today's book review. Today, I'm going to be talking about, drumroll please, The God of the Woods. This book I thought was amazing. I know that I am not alone in that opinion. This book won Book of the Year for 2024. I got this from Book of the Month, and you can see it says the Lolly winner here in this cool, whatever this is on the back, this cool shiny. And then, Book of the Year 2024 winner. So that's pretty cool. I like Book of the Month a lot. I think their books are really cool, mostly because of how consistent they are. But I got this one pretty recently. So let's get right into what exactly this book is and why it's, spoiler alert, it is amazing. And let's just get into why it's so amazing. All right, our dust jacket is removed. You can see this nice gold lettering on the side and on the front for the little emblem. This was Book of the Month for July 2024. And I'm pretty sure it's embossed in gold because it won. Because all of my other Book of the Month ones are like silver. So, cool little fun thing about Book of the Month books, if you were wondering at all. I'm a sucker for a special edition. I would consider these special edition. So, The God of the Wood. Oh my god, I'm so sorry, Liz Moore. The God of the Woods by Liz Moore. Oh my goodness, Liz Moore. I'm sorry, my gal. I did you dirty with that one. You wrote a fantastic book. I'm sorry, I should be better. But so The God of the Woods, the story kind of hops around in time, but I would say that this book is primarily set in August of 1975. And we're introduced to a whole host of characters. The story is told from, I would say, 4 primary points of view, but we do have a couple other points of view that are also captured and presented to us on different parts of the timeline. The timeline first appears quite short, and then the whole story kind of like unravels around itself. It's very interesting the way it's told because you're getting snapshots from different moments in time, and then you're getting snapshots from other moments in time that really help tie together what's happening in later time points based on what happened in the past. So our first person that we are introduced to in the story is named Louise. Louise is super cool. In 1975, she is a counselor at the camp where this all takes place, and she is also a townie to the local town of Shattuck. This is interesting for a couple of reasons. Normally the townies that work at this camp, they tend to be like cooks and groundskeepers and like wilderness kind of people, like teachers and stuff. Whereas all of the counselors tend to be really wealthy folks that are friends with the family that owns the estate on which the camp is. The counselors typically are chosen from family friends of the family that owns the estate where the camp is located. And so before we go any farther, this is called Camp Emerson. Camp Emerson is a very stereotypical American summer camp kind of style. So this summer camp is an overnight camp. It's a sleepaway camp, and it's a pretty long summer camp as far as sleepaway camps go. Kids are there for 2 months, and they live there the entire time with a staff that's living there obviously full time with them for 2 months. Sorry, I almost knocked my coffee off my desk. At Camp Emerson, what's important to know is that this camp is on the Van Laar Preserve. The Van Laar family owns the Van Laar Preserve. And on this preserve, in addition to Camp Emerson, they also have like a summer home that they've called Self-Reliance. And this is the location of the family, like generally throughout this novel, and it'll all kind of like tie together, but these are our main like landmarks: the Van Laar Preserve, which contains Self-Reliance, and Camp Emerson. So Louise, our counselor slash townie gal, we start the story with her coming back to the cabin kind of in the middle of the night. It was her night off, so like no big deal. She comes back to her cabin in the middle of the night. She finds an empty bed right near the door, and the flashlight that's supposed to tell her like, oh hey, a camper has gone to the bathroom in the middle of the night. The flashlight, dun dun dun, is still there, which means that the camper that has left the bunk is presumably not in the bathroom and like maybe doing something they shouldn't be doing, but we don't know that yet. We don't know anything about that. As she's taking stock of who exactly is in the cabin, who exactly is missing, because this is quite far into the camp session. The camp started in June, and we're now in August. So she knows who all of her kids are. She should have like 12 kids in this cabin, and she can name them all off. So she starts naming all the kids off. She's like, okay, who's missing? She names them off again, who's missing? And then she realizes, oh, no. The camper that's missing is Barbara Van Laar. Okay, this is not good. Barbara Van Laar may sound a little bit familiar because she is part of the Van Laar family who, like I said, owns the Van Laar Preserve and by extension Camp Emerson. So of all the campers to go missing, she is arguably one of the worst ones that could possibly go missing. So Louise is understandably bugging at the very beginning of this book. And then she has like this weird kind of flashback to this weird run-in she had with her boyfriend earlier that night, who is part of a family that is family friends with the Van Laars. And so because of that, he is currently staying at Self-Reliance for a summer party that they host every year, where like they bring people to stay overnight at Self-Reliance while this camp is going on. So there's lots of people that don't live here on this property and doing all kinds of stuff kind of surrounding Barbara going missing in the night. The next perspective that we get and the next major point of view that we're introduced to is Tracy. Tracy is Barbara's bunkmate at Camp Emerson. They are in the balsam cabin. So that type of wood, they're all named after types of wood. And Tracy is like self-described as extremely large. And I know that it's like large by like 1975 standards, and that's fine. I couldn't really get a finger on whether they meant like large, like really tall, like Tracy's Dutch or something, or large, like fat, kind of like an Amberlin Breed child version. It was really hard for me to tell. It seems like it more just means that she's like very tall, though. That's kind of my impression from the way that like other people view her in the book. But according to herself, she's just like this extremely large person that doesn't fit anywhere. And as someone who is almost 5'10", I feel that a lot. Tracy, you're not alone. You should definitely consider sports that like tallness. I'm not going to say you should do basketball. Everyone says do basketball. Volleyball is like an excellent option, but if you don't want to do like the team sport aspect of it, swimming is a very viable option. So is rowing. Tracy, from me to you, the only thing that you can't do as like a large woman is probably like gymnastics and like commercial dancing. But even then, commercial dancing, there's so much stuff you could do. Like, all this is to say, I can't dance. All this is to say, Tracy, it's okay to be a big person. Like, no shame. Hold your head up. She is also kind of an outcast, and I also really feel for her there too. Like I related a lot to Tracy in a lot of ways when she's like first describing herself and kind of like setting out her character, because she feels like an outcast. She feels like she's too big for everything. And on top of that, she has recently divorced parents, it sounds like. She hardcore is resenting her new stepmom, who is part of the reason why she's even going to this camp in the first place. Like some of the first words out of Tracy's mouth are literally like, I don't want to go to camp. What are you talking about? Like, summer is the time where I make myself elaborate snacks, which I would love an elaborate Tracy snack. And she's like, I make myself elaborate snacks and I read books in the air conditioning on a couch in the living room. Like, let me live my life. To which I say, yes, Tracy, go off. But also it is good to get outside. So, like, balance. She resents her stepmom, who is very young, for effectively like sending her off to this summer camp. She doesn't understand it. She's like, why are you stealing my life from me and my dad from me? I hate you. Which is like not nice, but she is totally entitled to feel this feeling at 12, 13 years old. Being a 12 or 13-year-old girl is like not an easy thing to do, just like at its baseline. But so Tracy, who is Barbara's bunkmate at Camp Emerson, she's our second point of view. She notices right away that Tracy's missing. It sounds like she hears Tracy leaving in the night, and she is just very concerned about her friend. She doesn't really know what to do, and she's bugging. I mean, to say the least. Tracy is bugging. Right after we're introduced to Tracy in August, we have a flashback from when she first arrived at camp, where we learn the only 3 rules of Fight Club, i.e. Camp Emerson. First rule: any food in cabins must be properly stored. This is for rodents and stuff, which makes total sense. They're out in the woods. That's where the animals live. Second rule: swimming cannot be done alone. Swimming is at least a pairs or a group activity. You do not swim by yourself. Very good. They probably don't have like a lifeguard that just sits up there all day. Smart. And the last one, very important considering they're in the woods: when lost, sit down and yell. They give like these statistics that are like, oh, even for like an accomplished woodsman, they can get lost like 20 feet off a trail. So like, you're not an accomplished woodsman. If you are lost, sit down, yell. And this like comes up a lot. They make a huge deal out of this rule: sit down and yell, which honestly is a really great one. It's a lot easier to find a stationary target than a moving target when it comes to like trying to find a person. So Tracy is like really struck by these rules. She's like, whoa, that's crazy. I take it as like a lot of really good foreshadowing for like what's to come, because obviously we know that someone's about to go missing. So she like kind of notices these rules and like really latches onto them, and it's a really cool use, I think, of foreshadowing in this story. And so the next person that we're introduced to is Alice Van Laar. Alice Van Laar, as you might be able to imagine, is Barbara Van Laar's mother. She lives, as you might be able to guess, at the Van Laar summer home at Self-Reliance. And she is married to Peter Van Laar. Which Peter Van Laar, you might ask? Peter Van Laar the fourth. Peter Van Laar is a man of many generations. Obviously, this is the fourth, so he's the 4th generation of Peter Van Laars. But yeah, she's his wife, Peter the Fourth. And in 1975, when we meet her, she's like a shell of a human. She is barely there. She's having like these incoherent thoughts because these point of views are like from inside of the head of the person that the chapter is on. So like inside of her head, she's just like barely there. She doesn't really care about like anything really, like least of all Barbara, to Barbara's demise, honestly. And she calls in the camp director. She's like, hey girl, how's it going? I know camp just started. I'm actually super excited for all these parents to leave. Also, you're taking my daughter to camp. And the camp director's like, our camp slots are full. Like, I don't know about that one, chief. And Alice is like, no, sorry, I wasn't asking, actually. You're taking Barbara to camp. And so the camp director's just like, okay, well, I guess I'm taking Barbara to camp. I'll come get her tomorrow. And so Barbara is kind of like already off on like this weird foot with the rest of the campers at the beginning of camp, where, they all come when they're supposed to on the first day of camp, and Barbara is not going to show up until the second. And as someone who has been to a lot of summer camps in their lives, I will tell you that like one day at camp, even a half day at camp, especially that first day when like kind of like the whole social scene is being set, missing that is like bad. A day at camp is like a year in real life. Like there's really no other way around it. Or maybe like a week. I don't know. Maybe that's hyperbolic too much. But like a day at camp is not like a regular day in any capacity. There's so much that happens, and there's so much, especially like on that first day, of like social groundwork that happens, that like in my mind it is kind of mean to be like, okay, fine, Barbara can start the second day. Like I feel like it just really sets her up to fail socially and to like not have a great time. From there, we diverge into like this very spooky and like short chapter from a person only called Jacob. This person, we'll like later find out, is the topic of a lot of like ghost stories that happen at the camp because of the child that went missing 14 years earlier in 1961. This man, Jacob, was accused of murdering that child that went missing. And the other child that went missing is Barbara's older brother, Bear. His name was Peter. He would be Peter the Fifth, but his name, what he went by, was Bear. And so this man, Jacob, was accused of murdering Bear. And basically the scene that we're seeing is him escaping from prison. But what that boils down to in terms of like how the children view it and how the children are receiving this is that he is effectively a Camp Emerson ghost story, because he is the man officially who murdered a child at this camp. And then from there, we start getting these flashbacks to 1961. Now, 1961 was when Bear went missing. And there was a huge search effort that was put out for him. There were lots of police involved, and they came to the conclusion that Bear was irretrievably missing. They could not find him at all. And the family gave up, and they just stopped looking. A year later, they conceived Barbara. So make of that what you will. She was effectively just like a straight replacement for her brother Bear. So we start getting these flashbacks to both like the 1950s and the 1960s. The 1950s flashbacks that we have are all centered around Alice Van Laar, so Bear and Barbara's mom. In the 1950s, we're introduced to her as like this really quiet woman, very meek, very mild. We see her being introduced to Peter the Fourth by her sister. She thinks that Peter is really cool, and basically like an entire summation of their like courting and everything that they do prior to getting married is, well, it was the 1950s. Everyone just gets married fast. Like you get married to strangers, that's fine. And like I wasn't alive in the 1950s. You know, I'm not that old. So like I couldn't tell you if this is true or not from personal experience or like from a firsthand basis. But I mean, I know that like dating longer has been like a more modern thing. So I guess I'll give her that one. It just seems foolish in my mind to marry someone who feels like a stranger to you in a lot of ways. So those are my 2 cents. I know that Alice was also like really looking to like please her family and be a good wife and do the wife thing. So like I can't really blame her for this at all. If anything, I blame her sister for introducing her, but like that's whatever. Since in 1975 though she's Peter the Fourth's wife, we all know how this is going to end. They're going to get together. It's going to be a love story. Just kidding. It's not really much of a love story. But so we have these flashbacks for Alice, and you kind of see like where her downfall started. Like she goes from being a pretty normal person to being like this shell of a person, you know, in 25 years, 1950s to 1975. It's like not even 25 years. And then we start getting these flashbacks from our next perspective, Carl. His name is Carl Stoddard, and in 1961 he was a gardener at the Van Laar Preserve. Notably, Carl was a friend to Bear. That is one of his primary stations in this book. He is also a volunteer firefighter that receives the call when Bear goes missing. He's the person that answers it at the fire station, because this town, Shattuck, is so small that they only have like a volunteer fire department, and it consists of like 4 dudes, not even like 4 dudes. It consists of actually 4 dudes. So he's one of them. He is 25% of the volunteer firefighter crew. He receives the call, Bear Van Laar is missing at Self-Reliance come help us. And him and the other 3 guys that make up this firefighter organization, they all head up there. I think his brother is supposed to like bring a bloodhound with them so that they can track down Bear's scent. It's raining that day, so they're all concerned that the scent's going to be drowned out, like all of this kind of stuff. We find out very quickly while he's like just beginning this line of investigation and like these lines of questioning that he is very likely one of the last people to have seen Bear alive. He says that he saw Bear from afar as he was leaving his work, which, reminder, he worked as a gardener on the Van Laar Preserve. So when he was leaving the Van Laar house after he was done with his job, he says that he saw Bear tying his shoe. And he said that was, like at some critical time point, and that puts him as one of the last people to see Bear. That's kind of where we leave off on Carl, because otherwise if I talk too much more about him, that's going to be like a spoiler. So Carl, yeah, he's kind of out here floating, but we get a lot of confusion from him and a lot of like color, I guess, to the situation of how Bear's investigation goes and like what is happening there. And so when we flash forward to 1975, because keep in mind, there is an active missing child case right now that is like hot, right? Like Barbara just went missing in the night, and we're doing all these flashbacks to the 1950s to 1961, all this crazy stuff. But so flashing forward to present day in the book, 1975 in August, we are introduced to our final like major point of view throughout the book. This is Judyta Lubpak. She's Polish, and she is the investigator for Barbara's disappearance. She's one of the primary investigators. Judyta is Polish. She comes from a very Polish family. That theme comes up a lot in her just talking about like her inner demons, her independence, and all this kind of stuff. That's kind of like it's a B plot kind of that's unique just to Judyta, and really like gives you like a window into what's kind of going through her mind and her character's like whole like motivation. She really wants to be like the best at what she's doing. But so she's a very new investigator. She's up and coming. She's the youngest to achieve the role that she currently has in this book. This is her first case in that role. And unfortunately for her, it is 1975 and she is a woman. And because of that, basically no one takes her seriously because woman. And like, she can't really do anything about it. And it really brought me back to the 1975 of it all, I guess is what I would say. Like, it was well done, but it was also very frustrating. And because of that, I would say that it was very well written. Judyta Lubpak, she has kind of like this tiff ongoing with the highest ranking officer on the case, because this officer, like his whole career is built on the case with Bear Van Laar. And so when people keep bringing up Bear Van Laar's disappearance as they're working on this disappearance, he's like, don't talk about that. Why are you talking about this? That's an open and shut case. Wasn't it done so greatly? I did a great job on this case. Let's never talk about it again. And the other investigators are like, well, no, this seems like it's related. Like something is going on here. Like we should really look at this together. And by searching for things for Barbara, we are finding out more stuff about what happened to Bear. Like we really need to like look at both of these as a whole. And this officer is like, what did I just say? It was solved immaculately by a genius. No, we're not doing that. Like, shut up. But there is another officer who is her equal for all intents and purposes, but he does have more experience with it than her. He's been in this position for like a really long time, it seems like, at least like 10 or 15 years. And he, whenever that highest ranking officer is gone, he basically tells everyone like, all right, don't listen to him. Do the research that you know that you need to be doing and just don't report it to him. Report it to me. Do whatever he tells you to do, but like, this stays between us. Like, don't involve this child. Well, don't involve this man-child in our like real investigation work that we're doing, everyone. Okay, just keep it with me. And so, he encourages them to keep pursuing the truth along with Judyta, and they do that. So, I mean, really, at the end of this book, we do get the resolution of like what happens to Barbara. You get to know that. at the end of this book. Am I going to tell you anything else about how they find out or what exactly has happened to her? No, because that would be a huge spoiler. All I'm going to tell you is that it's really good. I would highly encourage anyone who is considering this to read it. I am going to be honest with you. I chose it because it was pink and it had pink sprayed edges, but also the fact that it was voted book of the year, to me, that said a lot. But so how would I rank this book? I would rank this book as crushing it. Like, absolutely crushing it. Definitely worth reading. It's really cool how this whole mystery comes together. There's a lot of like twists and turns that you kind of don't even see coming. And then, you know, when you're trying to solve this whole mystery for yourself of like what happened to these children, it's really cool because the way it's presented, you can have a lot of different directions to go in. But then the way that it starts like dismantling things that are wrong and showing you what's right, it's a really cool way that like it happens. And I really enjoyed reading it. I didn't really see like the major twists at all coming up until they were like right there. And I know that some of that is on me. I'm not the most critical thinker when I'm reading through books all the time, but I mean, this one definitely set a mood of like, you're going to want to think while you read this. And I thought that that was really nice because then it kind of like gave me that cue to like keep my eyes open really. And I really enjoyed doing that a lot. And I think that other people would too. So if you haven't read this book already, I would highly recommend reading The God of the Woods by Liz Moore. This is going to be the first book in my book of the month like series. I know that I like have really established myself as someone that really likes romance and fantasy and romantic-y kind of books. I really like fiction of all kinds, and I am a book of the month subscriber and I want to read those books. So I want to include them here on the channel just because I think they're really cool. And they're a nice like palette cleanser too between like the really big, well, most of the time, those really big fantasy series that have a lot of stuff just really involved in them. I feel like it's a nice break, a nice breather, a nice refresher. I am definitely a mood reader. So I try to keep things pretty varied because otherwise I get bored. And if I'm not in the mood for it, then it's going to take me like a month to read a book. And I don't like doing that. That annoys me. But I also hate not finishing books because I want to know what happens. That's why I get a lot of books that are cursed, but I also get a lot of books that are crushing it. So we will continue down this journey together, I guess. Our first book of the month book, crushing it, unequivocally. The God of the Woods, Liz Moore. Wonderful book. It also has sprayed edges, which is pretty cool. If this is available for you on Book of the Month, don't sleep on it. It's pretty cool. I think that it was an add-on for me for my box. So if it's still available as an add-on, I would highly recommend it. But anyway, God of the Woods, absolutely crushing it. And I hope you are crushing it and having a great day. Please remember, if you like this video, to like down at the bottom. Please drop me a comment. If you've made it this far, please leave me a tree emoji for the God of the Woods. And if you want to see some more of these videos, please just subscribe. That would be really helpful. I don't know. I want to start building up my channel. So also, if you have any vampire book recommendations that you would like to see on the vampire ranking tier list, please comment them down below. And I will shout you out if I read the book. So, all right. Thank you. Have a good day. Do I clap at the end? I don't know. Clap, clap, clap.